So, before I start, I want to say you never truly understand a person until you've walked a mile in their underwear, so thank you, Tor. So, when I put up the title of the talk this morning, or James did actually, Filthy Rich Flex, and Joe said, oh, that seems so wrong. But, I mean, Roman and I, surely we have the rights to do this. Now, David Geary did Filthy Rich GWT, that seemed a little more remote to me. So what I wanted to do was create some new effects, Filthy Rich effects, and show you how to do those in Flex. And I didn't have the time, so instead, I ripped off demos that we already did for Java, just to see how I would duplicate those in Flex. So take a look at, let's take a look at some. So we have the Pulse one. So this is about drawing the user's attention to something that they might want to know about. In this case, it's a wireless icon, so it adds sort of a subtle glow animation around the edges. So we can take a look at how, in a complete presentation, I'll show you how you do this in Java. Go buy the book. Instead, I'll show you how you do it in Flex. There is a custom component that I won't go into because of time. It basically just has a glow. It's a standard image component, and it has a glow filter around it that's modulated over time by setting some parameters with this animation. So we have an animation set up to basically change an alpha value over time, and to change it to go from 0 to 1 and then back from 1 to 0. And then we set up the image here, and we say go ahead and use this animation on it. And that's basically it, apart from the property setter that says this is the new value for the glow. So fairly straightforward. Another one is the spring effect. So this is similar to something you would see on the Macintosh, which is about giving the user an indication when something is happening when they may not actually know about it. If you double-click something on Windows and it takes a while to launch, you actually don't know whether it worked or not. So you double-click it a few more times and pretty soon you have 10 apps running. On the Macintosh, it's actually a spring effect. So you double-click and there's an indication that, yes, we know you launched your application even if you haven't seen it yet. So fairly simple effect, and we can take a look at how that is implemented. So let's take a look at the spring code. So we have an animation here that does both a scale from 1 to 2x, so it goes from the current size of the image to 2 times its size. It also varies the alpha because it's going to be faded out as it scales it up. We have the component layout here, simple container of VBox and HBox to hold basically the 4 icons, and then some labels that are relevant, and then some action script code here. And the action script code has one method that actually starts the spring effect playing on the double click, and that basically grabs the image that was clicked, copies the bitmap data from it into a new temporary sprite object, and then excuse me, adds that to the stage at the proper place, and then plays the effect. And then it also adds in an event so that when it's all faded and zoomed and everything is all done, and you want to remove the child because you don't want this thing sort of hanging out there in space. 2 minutes, excellent. Wow, I'm running out of time. So let me go on to the third one. There's actually more code to cover there. Fascinating stuff, but instead, let's go on to search transition. This is something that came from the animated transitions library that I was writing, where I wanted to talk about this. This came up in one of the sessions yesterday, where we talk about animated segues to give the user an indication of how they got here from back there. So for instance, if you're doing a search on dung, you want to know what happens. Typically, in HTML especially, the page erases, and then you get this new page, and you're like, well, what's going on here? And it turns out, well, a couple of the fields are the same up here as they used to be. So isn't it nice if you can actually sort of smoothly transition and show them, well, these things are the same, so we show you those moving. This object, the label in the middle, fades out, so that smoothly fades out, and this other stuff sort of fades and zooms in. So we can take a look at some of the code that enables that, which is
1 minute.
In search transition. So this is another thing that's worth looking at, is the design view, which you can pop in and out of, and that basically creates the MXML components. Or you can hand hack them. Yes, I hard-coded those search results. I actually don't have a database on this computer for dung beetles. So there's some technical details here. I use an embedded font because I need to do a fade effect, and in Flash there's a requirement that you actually need to use an embedded font to get that effect. Here's a transition that defines animations that are going to happen between states. The states are sort of an interesting flexism where you basically declare different states of an application. So we have the base state here, and we have the result state. So you define these 2 separate GUIs, and then you can define the transitions that automatically happen between those 2 states. And I think that's pretty much the interesting stuff there. And I'm out of time now.